Welcome to Manhwa Recaps, spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. Huge shout out and special thanks to the channel members. The manhwa starts off by introducing us to a character named Fernand Pellenberg. He is the young lord of the ducal house of Pellenberg, the most prosperous family in the army and empire. He is also a student in the magic department of the Imperial Academy, with a solid family background, a solid education, and overflowing wealth. His biggest downside was that he is crazy obsessed with money. It's so much so that people called him the money fiend. He was once again holding a morning meeting and receiving reports from the merchant guild run by his family, and constantly berating everybody who failed to meet his expectations. It was just a day like any other, but as they say, misfortune always strikes suddenly. As he's walking down somewhere, talking to his assistant, he notices something as he looks up, because it was a sunny day without a single drop of rain. He noticed something strange in the sky, as it was none other than lightning hurtling down towards him, striking him. The shock was so great it took his breath away, and his mind grew hazy. Seeing that moment of weakness, a strange soul burrowed in. We see them wondering what's going on, but Fernand as well asked who the hell they are. They laugh, asking if they are possessing someone. Fernand asked what they mean by possession, and it started spouting incomprehensible words and rummaging through his mind. His mind instinctively realized it was trying to steal his body. He squeezed out what little mana he had left and attacked the invader. The invader screamed, while being attacked, but it worked as it scattered around his entire body, and he was able to absorb some of it. In that single moment, unfamiliar memories slammed into his head, causing a splitting pain throughout his entire skull. He then jolts awake, and his assistant asks if he's okay. Fernand saw a strange text right in front of his own eyes. It was a prophecy about the ominous end of this world. About how these 72 demon kings of Solomon will rise, the world is going to fall into chaos, and that Fernand will conspire with the demon and lose all of his money. It was a hint of a future more terrible than death. He starts asking what kind of bullshit this is, as there's no way he'd ever live like a beggar. Since that day, he's tried to find out what that soul was, and why it tried possessing him, and how it had all these strange memories, but he ended up finding nothing. One thing he was certain about though, was that there is a high chance that the prophecy is coming true. Rather, it's not just a chance, but it's been coming true so far. Thanks to that, he was able to get ahead of the issues and make a pretty hefty profit, but he wasn't entirely happy about it. The fact the prophecy is coming true means that his ruin is also drawing near, so he needs to verify more thoroughly whether it's entirely correct. His assistant asks how class was, and Fernand says like usual. Then the assistant asks if he wants some coffee, and Fernand says okay, as he reaches for the newspaper. He looks for the news about the academy, and the assistant can tell he's acting strange, wondering if he is feeling unwell these days. Fernand says no, and the assistant says that it seems like he has a lot on his mind. Fernand asks for how long it's been like that to him, and the assistant says about half a year ago. He'd suddenly space out for a while, and the person who used to prioritize investigation and verification would suddenly make strange choices, as if possessed, and that these are the after effects of being struck by lightning. Fernand says that those strange choices turned out to be the right ones in the end. He sees somebody of the army and family named Ain't, who has applied to the school. Fernand says that this confirms it, and starts running off. When the assistant goes to ask him a question, Fernand says he'll be back after a quick trip to the south. The assistant says that he just made him coffee, though, but Fernand doesn't care. We learn that the Imperial Academy is a vast domain built on Bardian, an island located in the Empire's inland sea. The expansive grounds were an artificial environment created by magic, and in the southern part, a wide wetland stretched out. Fernand says it's the day he can finally verify for sure if the prophecy is real. Among the contents mentioned in the prophecy, there are 3 things in his mind that stand out the most, and they're all about him falling into ruin and being a beggar. This pisses him off. He says that's not actually all 3, then lists them properly. First, the one just mentioned, the one about him being a beggar. Second is where the 72 demons summoned by Solomon 1,000 years ago rise again. And third, the future of Ain't, who will save the world by fighting against those demons. Fernand says that Ain't is a figure that no citizen of the Empire could possibly not know, because he is a descendant of the Empire's founding emperor, Kalinos Armin. The House of Armin, which founded the entire empire, along with the 5 surrounding kingdoms, is now, 1,000 years later, a fallen house that has lost all of its authority as the imperial family, with only its honor remaining. The prophecy book states that its descendant of the old imperial family, Ain't, is the protagonist. After finishing the entrance exam, he did not return right away, but headed for the southern wetlands. The reason he entered the academy was to chase the trail of a map left to his family by the first emperor. From the moment he enrolled in the academy, a series of events occurred around him, and written in detail just like he was reading a novel. Therefore, seeing for himself if he is really acting according to the prophecy is the surest way to verify its authenticity. Besides that, he is also directly related to Fernand's awful future, as he gives him an excommunication document. What's even more crazy is that he has no idea why he came to hate him, leading to his downfall. He can't read the entire contents of the prophecy book. There are parts that are unreadable here and there, so for some events, he can only grasp the general flow, and he couldn't figure out the exact cause and effect. The superficial reason was that he joined hands with the demon, but that does not make sense. Fernand gets off his horse, saying that it should be around here somewhere, as Ain't is searching for a hidden dungeon in these wetlands. Inside of the dungeon is a provision from the first emperor of the Armian family. A sword imbued with the spirit of the empire's first royal knight, Gardener Alvain Farson, lies dormant. Fernand says that if the prophecy is accurate, he is the most suitable person to save the world from demons, and he sure is going to be a great hero. If only he wasn't talented enough to fight demons, he would have found him and crushed him long ago, because this bastard plans to make him a beggar. He then smells blood in the air, and mentions how the prophecy said that he was injured by a croaker's attack on the way to the dungeon. Even if he was born with the destiny of a hero, his talent hasn't blossomed yet. A croaker is an apex predator of the swamp, and it must have been a tough opponent. Fernand sees the blood leading to a tree, saying that might be the cave entrance. So far, it's just as the prophecy has said. He decides to check if Ain't is inside, but then he spots him off to his side, wondering why he hasn't entered the dungeon yet, and if he came too early. Fernand says that in times like this, he needs to act confident, saying that this is an area restricted for freshmen. Ain't asks if he knows him, and Fernand says that there's nobody in the Empire who doesn't know him. Ain't says that he's sorry, but he doesn't recognize him, asking for his name. Fernand tells him, and Ain't surprised as he recognizes the name. Fernand says that he needs to remind him that he's his senior. Ain't says yes, and Fernand asks if he ran into a lizard man, because he's injured. Ain't tells him that he actually encountered a croaker. Fernand says that's pretty unlucky, since they're only spotted once or twice a year, and throws him an elixir. He says that it's a potion, saying that it's of the highest grade, and it'll be much better than drinking 10 bottles of low-grade ones. Ain't calls him young lord, but Fernand corrects him, saying just to call him by his name. So Ain't does that, and Fernand says he doesn't need money. Even if his family has fallen, he's of imperial blood, and he doubts he'll turn out to be a worthless person, and that they can just call it an investment. Ain't says that Fernand doesn't seem like someone who's crazy about money like the rumors say, and he might be a surprisingly good person. He thanks him, but Fernand says that he can't believe how much he's wasting, and if only it wasn't for the damn prophecy. He then starts lecturing him about how lucky he is, and tells him to be careful on his way back. Ain't bows, thanking him for his kindness, and Fernand says that he didn't actually go back, but instead hid nearby, erasing his presence. Ain't drank the potion and entered the dungeon, and a little while later, Fernand followed him in. He says that it's actually real, and seeing as there's no reaction even when he enters it, it seems that it's already been cleared. He says that there are so many magic lamps, but he can barely feel any trace of mana. He then picks one up, saying that it's actually faintly absorbing the surrounding mana, and that these are semi-permanent magic lamps, wondering why he left something so valuable behind. Fernand says that he was so clueless earlier, which is a different image from the one written in the prophecy, and he starts to wonder if he can really entrust the future of the world to this kid. In the prophecy, he entered the dungeon while injured, and on top of that, the shock from falling right at the dungeon entrance, his whole body was a wreck. His wounds were severe, and he ended up drinking all of his potions, but they were so poor quality that he wasn't fully healed, but he pushed forward through all of the pain, and he felt an instant connection, because on an altar at the end was a sword. While it looked very plain, at the same time, he could not take his eyes off of it. His heart and soul root was drawn to it. Ain't grabbed the sword, and in that moment, a brilliant radiance illuminated the entire darkness of the cavern. When he closed and opened his eyes, he was no longer in the dungeon, but standing in a secluded alley of the Imperial Academy. Fernand says it's faint, but there's still a trace of magic left. The mark in the middle of the altar where the sword was embedded is still there, but Ain't is no longer here, and the situation is just telling him the prophecy was real, which means that all of these things, such as his excommunication, means that it's all real. Fernand scratches his head, saying that he can't believe he's going to become a beggar, and this sounds like straight shit. And while Ain't is the main protagonist of the prophecy, and also the hero who protects the world from demons, that's not all he is, as he is the one who will bring about Fernand's downfall. But right now, his stock is rising. The one described in the prophecy had an entirely different personality from the Ain't he knows. He's the type who values honor more than material things, so if he approaches him carelessly, it might backfire. He wonders how to deal with this. He says it's a difficult problem, and the assistant asks what he means. We finally learn that his assistant is named Hyde. Fernand says that there's a top stock that will definitely grow well, and if he invests in it, asking Hyde what he would do. He says he'd do it without hesitating. Fernand then asks, what if the stock has a shitty personality that isn't aligned with yours? Hyde asks why that's even a concern. The Duke always said that even personalities can be aligned with money. Fernand realizes he's right. It's only complicated due to the demons and the destruction, but the core principle is the same: invest, take a risk, and earn massive amounts of money. A difference in personality is a very minor issue in the face of massive wealth. But he needs more information on Ain't. He grabs his coat, saying that he needs to go meet him right now. Hyde asks who, since they have a guest coming later, but Fernand leaves. Hyde says that he's again just reading stuff about the prophecy once more. I guess he knows. We learn that at the academy, dormitories are assigned according to entrance exam rankings. Rank 1 to 10 is the Levatus dorm for the top elite. 11 to 30 is the Blessed dorm for outstanding students. And the dorm for the scraps outside the top 30 is called the Debez dorm. We see Gardner, at least his ego that now resides in the sword. He's yelling at Ain't, asking how a descendant of the Armian is staying in the Debez dorm rather than one of the better ones when it's their family's academy. This is unbelievable. If they let Emperor know, he'd rise from his grave and twist all these demons and axe. Ain't asks why he's talking about demons all of a sudden, and Gardner says that there's no way something like this could happen without a demon interfering. Ain't tells him that it can't be helped. He's here because he's weak. Gardner says that there's no way a descendant of the Armians is this weak. Ain't says the first emperor is to blame. Gardner asks what he's talking about. Ain't explains that the first emperor was the one who abolished the imperial succession system and changed it to electing the emperor from among the 7 electorates. Furthermore, he donated most of their land and assets to the empire. And as the throne was taken by the other elector families for over 100 years, the donated territory is no longer theirs, and their family's fortunes gradually declined, even losing some of the secret sword techniques passed through generations. Even though he's an elector, given these circumstances, he couldn't even receive proper sword training. Gardner says that he still has talent, and he will support him with all the resources he can to restore their family to its former glory. And perhaps the late emperor also predicted this and placed him here for that purpose. There's a knock at the door. We hear Fernand ask if he's there. Gardner wonders who it could be. Ain't says he has no idea, asking who it is. Fernand tells him, and Ain't opens the door, asking him what brings him here. Fernand asks if he's busy, and he says no, he doesn't have anything urgent to do right now. Fernand says great, asking if he can spare a moment, but it's way too loud here, as everybody's moving in and out, and there's a lot of yapping. He tells him that they should go somewhere quieter. Ain't tells him to just wait 10 minutes and he'll come right out. Fernand asks if he's really making him wait for 10 whole minutes and starts yapping at him, saying that he has no discipline. Ain't corrects himself, saying that he'll get out in 5. Fernand tells him he'll be waiting outside and closes the door. Ain't says he's not going to be able to do that. Gardner asks who the hell that was. Ain't tells him that he's the eldest son of the Pellenberg family. Gardner says they're nothing but a bunch of rich kids, asking what makes them so great when all they have is money and why they are bossing around a royal heir. Ain't, though, is just trying to figure out why he wants to see him, saying surely he didn't come to get the potion money since it's an investment. A little later, while they're having a meeting, Fernand notices that he brought his sword, asking about it. Ain't tells him he feels safe carrying it, but he doesn't have any ill intentions. Fernand says he understands most knights can't bear to stay away from their swords, but he understands that it must be the one infused with the gardener's ego. Ain't asks why he wants to meet him, and Fernand says it's nothing much. He was just thinking of dinner and tells him to order whatever he wants. Ain't says he's fine since this place looks expensive. Then Fernand tells him to stop refusing his senior when they're offering drinks. Ain't says he got it, and he'll look at the menu. As he starts scouring through it, Fernand looks at him, saying that he seems naive and gentle, but he wonders how a kid like this changes so much in the future. He asks him what he's going to do after he graduates. Ain't looks surprised, and Fernand says that students usually enroll in the academy to expand their influence, but the army and always use the excuse of developing their family strength and never participated in socializing, so it's surprising to discover someone from that family has enrolled now. Ain't tells him he's sick of being scorned as a fallen imperial family, and their blood is still royal, even if it's just the name. That's the reason he will become a royal knight and restore his family's honor. Fernand says that his eyes change when he's talking about his dream. He has high ambition and determination, strong enough to achieve his goals. He also has great pride in his lineage, meaning he's not just as naive as he thought. Fernand asks if he has any allergies. They then start having a little side conversation, which is wholesome, but later in the day Fernand says he's got a good idea of what kind of person he is now. He was going to sponsor him after, but it's a good thing that he didn't, as he would have damaged his pride the moment he threw money in his face, since he values honor just like he did in the prophecy. For someone like him, it's better for him to commit to a push and pull technique rather than blatant goodwill. His top priority is to slowly build trust and gain his loyalty, and the time when he will need him will come naturally if he just waits, and when it does, he'll reel him in like a fish, using his money against him, and he'll turn him all over to his side and extract everything he needs. Hyde asks where he's been, and if he also met with the Birchev. Fernand says no, but he's curious as to why he's bringing up the Birchev so suddenly. Hyde reminds him that he summoned Luina Birchev because she was slacking off. Fernand asks if that was the day, and Hyde says that he would have just sent her back if he had known he'd be so late. He ended up telling her that Fernand wouldn't be gone for long, but she left after 3 hours of waiting, and that she's going to think he purposely did this to crush her determination. Fernand says it's fine, as she'll be easier to control if her determination is crushed, and he's put a lot of effort into binding the Birchev, so it needs to work out. He gets a sharp pain in his head and starts holding onto it. Hyde asks if he's okay, and Fernand says he doesn't know what's going on, but his head hurts like crazy. He then spots the prophecy starting to show some of the unreadable parts from before, and he wonders why it's appearing now. It describes a woman who has fluttering brown hair and her eyes reminiscent of aquamarine blue. There were only parts of what described her. Her sword is incomparably noble and beautiful, as if it was alive, and she danced under the moonlight. Ain't ran into her and found himself captivated. Her outstanding talent was enough to rival a royal knight, however, she had malevolence within her. If the shackles binding her were broken, she would be able to spread her wings once more and soar to the potential she had. The shackles binding her, though, is none other than the Pellenberg family, and Ain't needs to free her from them. Fernand says no way, wondering if this is why Ain't hates him in the future, all because of Luina. He says things got a lot more complicated. We see Luina sitting in a chair, annoyed with Fernand. Yesterday, he stood her up deliberately, so why did he call her here again? She's the one drowning in debt, and she wonders if he is just trying to kill her spirit. He sees her from across the room, and says that he can feel how annoyed she is from here. We learn that the Birchev family has traditionally held the title of border counts. Once a strong family guarding the Northern Empire, and one of the 7 prince-electors, but after massive monster waves caused enormous damage, their fortress-like family crumbled, and their glory vanished. The Birchev desperately needed funds to rebuild the family. They even sold their golden patent that grants them the right as prince-electors, but it wasn't enough. At that time, the one who extended a hand to Birchev was the head of the Pellenberg family, Fernand's father. There was no way his father pitied their misfortune. Not a single shred of pity. Rather, it was just an opportunity for him. Since his family's excellence in magic, they were lacking in swordsmanship, but they desired magic swordsmen, and he prevented other nobles from financially supporting Birchev, and eventually forced them to borrow a huge amount from his family. While they escaped annihilation, They were suffering from hell interest fees. If he pushed a bit more, they would have broken under the pressure, and handed over the magic swordsmanship. Of all people, Luina was destined to become the lover of Ain't. Fernand starts thinking about it, saying regardless of the magic swordsmanship, since she is connected to Ain't, the least he can do is make sure she doesn't hate him. He enters the room, saying that she's here early, and he apologizes for yesterday, as he was distracted and forgot about the appointment, and he never did it on purpose. She says enough, and it's always the unfortunate party who bears the unfairness. He says that he didn't really mean it, and she says that if that's what he wants to say, then she understands, but he tells her he really means it. She says that it's enough, asking why he wanted to meet. He says she already knows, and he starts to wonder how to win her favor over. His operation to do that starts with phase 1. He says that starting second year, there's a joint class between the magic and night department, but she instantly refuses. He says that he didn't even finish his sentence, asking how she knew what he would say. She says that she knows he was trying to get her to be his partner, and there's no way she would. Partnering with him is useless, as the department's second rank, she has far better options than someone ranked 10th. Fernand says that if she partners with him for 3 years, he'll waive all of her interest accumulated so far, but on the condition that she accepts him as her sponsor. She asks why, and he says that it's because all joint classes are important. He says they are worth 5 whole credits. She says that's not it. Not only does he want to be her partner, but also her sponsor, and he might not know, but she's on a scholarship at the academy. Fernand says that most of which she sends to her family, so apart from the dorms, everyone knows that she lives poorer than most commoners, and sponsoring her doesn't mean anything else, he just wants to invest because she's talented. She says that nobles don't usually sponsor other nobles. She's also someone who values loyalty, just like Ain't. He says the Birchev's honor may be high, but it can't compare to the former royalty. She wonders if he's insulting her, but he continues explaining unlike Armian, there's a direct entanglement between their two families, so even if she hates it, she'll have to accept his proposal. He tells her this isn't the time to be proud, and he didn't lie when he said she was talented, even if she does bear a grudge against him. It's now time for phase 2. He says he actually saw her sword dance recently, and that her sword is supremely noble and beautiful, and her eyes immediately light up, and he continues saying that it's noble and alive. She definitely wouldn't refuse someone who recognizes her talent. She asks what he means, and he says he couldn't forget the day he first saw her sword dance. Bro starts hitting her with that poem phase a lot of emo kids go through, and she cringes telling him to stop. He says he can't, and she grows nervous, and he says he still hasn't found the perfect word to describe the beauty of her sword dance, and embarrassed, she says that she'll be his partner, telling him to stop. The mission was accomplished. We hear her maid reading how there are 3 years of interest waiver and sponsorship, and it won't be made public. There's also a clause to end the contract after graduation immediately. In exchange, she just has to be Fernand's class partner for 3 years. Luina says the conditions are too good to refuse, and he saw the potential in her sword dance. The maid asks what exactly he saw, and she starts telling her how he said it was noble and beautiful, and also he still hasn't found the perfect word to describe her sword dance's beauty. The maid starts to get absolutely furious, wondering if he's trying to put a move on her, saying at least he has taste, and Luina says it's not like that. The maid says that he's definitely resorting to seduction tactics, and with his good looks and deep intense eyes, he's trying to charm her. She starts absolutely glazing Fernand, and Luina asks if maybe she's the one into him, and she says that she didn't feel seduced, but she was suspicious. Yet 3 years of waived interest will help the family a lot, so she's going to endure it. The maid also reminds her that she's second ranked, and Fernand is 10th. There's then a knock on the door, and the maid runs over to see Hyde, saying that Fernand is asking to see her, and that he'll be waiting at the training grounds, telling her to come as soon as possible. The maid's just pissed, mean mugging him. As Luina looks across the room, the maid says that she'll ask the lady. Luina wonders what he's trying to do with the training yard. She can't figure out what the hell he's up to. As we see him in the training room, drip the hell out, holding a staff, he starts explaining how she's the perennial second ranked. The second-year top student is someone named Alone Donnerts, and that Luina has never beaten him, but she has the talent to become one of the 10 royal knights on the continent. He'll find out soon enough if she's a hidden gem or not. She approaches him, saying that she's not exactly sure what's going on, wondering what he wants. He says that he just doesn't want her to think there's no benefit to partnering with him, and that he's going to show he's not that lacking compared to her. She wonders if he's really trying to just prove it by beating her now, because even if he is ranked 10th, he did qualify for the Labadish Hall. She recognizes that he's skilled, but there's a clear gap between 2nd and 10th place. He says he understands, and they should just start. She grips her blade, saying that if that's what he wants, to go ahead and try. She'll let him take the first move. He says gladly as he begins channeling a spell from his staff. We see the circles appear above her head as rocks begin forming. He continues speaking enchantment table as they start flying towards her. With one swipe, she immediately cuts all of them in half, and heads forward directly towards Fernan. He then begins casting yet another spell. As the debris from the first one is still falling down, she charges forward, slicing them all apart. As she's now almost right in front of him, and she wonders what he is planning, she looks dead ahead at his magic circle, and swings towards it. But in an instant, Fernan is behind her across the arena, and the magic circle is continuing. As he has now shattered the training ground floor, she says that she's actually low-key surprised, since it's made with all kinds of magic that normal spells won't even leave a mark. As she stares at him preparing, she wonders if maybe he was hiding his true power all along. The rocks continue falling as a bright light appears in front of her. She says there's no way. Not only is he multicasting, but he's also chaining high-level magic together. She wonders how much mana he actually has. This is definitely not the skill of a 10th ranker, and she completely underestimated him. At this rate, she's going to lose. Her eyes begin to light up blue, and an aura that matches the color of her eyes begins to emanate, forming a wind barrier around her. This time, Fernan is surprised and smiles. We see the training area begin to get cracks in it, as it starts falling apart. The rocks continue. She tightens the grip on her blade, dashing through them, completely unscathed still. As she is bouncing from rock to rock, heading towards Fernan, he just continues to cast his spell. What a cool panel. The staff then drops to the floor, and she looks pissed. As she stops too shy of his head, he tells her he surrenders. She wonders if he is mocking her. He says he's not, he's simply run out of mana. A mage has no way of beating a knight without mana. She says he doesn't look like he's acting. He's definitely out of mana and can't beat her with his current state. She blocked all of his attacks, so it's her win. She has a really bad feeling about this, because it doesn't feel like one. He tells her he also has something for her. As he reaches into his coat, he pulls it out, saying that this is because she beat him, and he heard that she likes chocolate. He says whiskey chocolate made by his family is really good. And if she doesn't like it, he can get her some different types of chocolate. If any of the other types are also not to her taste, he can get whatever she enjoys. She then stops drooling, saying to wait a minute, asking if he really did a background check on her. He says he wouldn't go to such trouble for one person like her, and that she should wipe her drool away. He merely looked into the personal details of all the students in the top ranks. She's annoyed, saying that's what a background check is, calling him a moron. She sighs, saying that she can't believe he is giving her chocolate for winning a duel, and she's not a child. He says that she doesn't have to take it if she doesn't want to, but she yoinks it out of his hand, saying that she never said she wouldn't. He laughs, saying that they can get along from now on. Then she asks why. He wonders what she's talking about. She says that he possesses an immense amount of mana, enough to unilaterally launch those brutish attacks, and she couldn't even begin to fathom its limits. So why is he merely ranked 10th? He smiles, saying it's obvious. A merchant doesn't step into the spotlight. Later, we see his staff on his desk, and some of the pieces are laying on it. Hyde asks what the hell happened to it, and why he completely shattered the mana storage and mana amplifier. He says that he dueled with Luina, and she was pretty strong. He came in well prepared, and still, everything got destroyed. Not only that, she exhausted all of his mana and still held on. He wonders why he would use such precious items in a duel. Wondering if she's really worth that much, he tells him that it's an investment for the future. Hyde asks what he means, and he says he'll explain later. Hyde wonders if it's still a side effect from the lightning strikes. But in Fernand's head, he's just saying that it was beautiful, and that Ain's judgment was not wrong. Her sword is fast and elegant. At a glance, it even appears noble. He thinks he understands why his father wants their sword art so much. She's also incredibly talented, but he wonders why she has never taken the top spot. He's saying maybe it's because her equipment is ass, and this entire time, he's just been ignoring the hell out of Hyde. Hyde asks what he's going to tell the Duke. Because the Birchev's secret sword art was his father's long-cherished wish. Fernand said that he didn't think much when he went for it, but now that he mentions it, he's a little worried, asking if his father will disown him for this. Hyde says no, he'd probably just kill him to get it over with. Fernand says there's no way he would kill his own son for interrupting his plans. In any case, he decided to send a letter to his father, and he could vividly picture his father's soul escaping his body. He had nothing but anxiety after sending it, and he spent his best to ignore it. After a few days, his father finally replied with the letter. As he's looking at it, he says it's faster than he thought, and Hyde cries, saying it's finally happened. Fernand asks if he happened to give him a separate message, and Hyde cries no. Fernand asks what's wrong, and Hyde says that he feels like today will be his last time serving him. Fernand says surely this won't be a reason for his disownment, and that he's meant to be excommunicated because of ain't, for the crime of joining hands with a demon. This incident isn't particularly related to the demon, so it should be fine. His father says that he's been possessed by a demon. He says that he needs to go see his father immediately, because he doesn't want any chance of him getting tangled up with a demon, like the prophecy says. He can't exactly tell his father that he obtained a book of prophecy either. The head butler says that his father is waiting, but Fernand continues saying that even if he said that he found a book, it doesn't physically exist, and he can't prove it. If he tells the truth, his father will either say that a merchant has lost in foolish delusions, or he'll fly into a rage, saying that he's going to ruin the family. He needs to offer something that can at least offset the loss to his father. His father tells him that he's more composed than he thought, and he was wondering if he had taken some kind of drugs and lost his mind, and if not, then perhaps the demon killed by the first emperor came back to life and possessed his son. And if it's not that either, then he needs to explain why he did it. Fernand says he wanted to make a better investment in Birchev. His father asks what would be better than the sword art, and he says that he can't tell him. His father reminds him this is not a request. Right now, he is trying to ruin their family's fortune, and Fernand tells him he's aware. However, his thoughts have not changed. If he entrusts the Birchev matter to him, he is confident he can bring back a profit far greater than the sword art. His father says he'll ask him again, wondering why he's so damn confident. Fernand, though, adamant, telling him that he can't say. His father says this is absurd, as he never raised him to be reckless, saying surely he knows that this isn't something that can be resolved by throwing a tantrum. Fernand says that he has no choice but to use what was mentioned in the prophecy to strike a deal, and he didn't want to play that card yet, but he has no choice. So he tells him that he's not throwing a tantrum. In exchange for taking full responsibility for the Birchev matter, he will give him information that only he knows. His father asks what it could possibly be, and Fernand says that he has an intelligence group that he runs personally. His father says there's no way it's better than what their family has, wondering what's so great that he's willing to toss Birchev aside for. Fernand says west of the Aruz Mountains, in the territory of Viscount Donnertz, there is an undiscovered magic crystal mine. His father says he hasn't heard of that in the area, asking how he came to find something like that, but an intelligence group that's no better than children playing house. Fernand says that children originally play by digging in the ground, and thanks to that, they sometimes get lucky and find a buried coin. And that place in the Aruz Mountains is enough to cover the losses from Birchev and still have plenty left over. In other words, it is a mountain of money. If you've watched till the end, comment, Roblox, to let me know. Subscribe for more videos like this, leave a like or a comment to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.